Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back at you with part 2 of my, I suppose, my shopping list for Italian football and Celtic for Christmas. Hope you enjoy it, and I thought for this one, for the intro, I'd do something a little bit different perhaps, and I suppose, and talk about some of the negatives and get them out of the way, and then at the end of the video, after I finish my list from ideas number 11 to 20, I thought I would talk about the positives, or what I did actually manage to do, or whatnot, even though they're not a huge amount of things that I did manage to do. But yeah, I thought I'd get it out of the way, get the worst out of the way in the intro, which is something a bit different to what I normally talk about in the intros. But yeah, so it's kind of a little bit different, I suppose. But yeah, so I woke up late, really tired, I slept too much, and I was quite demotivated. I didn't get any writing done, and I didn't really get much done, and I procrastinated too much, watching too much YouTube, and eating and drinking, but not doing much. So yeah, that was, and also part 1, I don't think I did a very good job at personally, but hopefully people will tell me differently in the comments. But I think I was a bit nervous and flustered, and I thought I'm going to forget. Well, I'm not going to be able to think of what to include in the list, or I'm going to repeat myself too much, or whatever, or worrying about whether people enjoy it, or whatever, being cringeworthy or whatnot. So I was a bit nervous. I don't know if that came across, but I don't think I did a very good job. But as I often fear. But I'd love to know what other people think, and yeah, I do worry whether people will enjoy it or not. But that's some of the negative stuff out of the way from a personal point of view. But with that being said, having said that, here are ideas number 11 to 20, which I hope will somehow get put into practice, and I hope are good enough to benefit Italian football and Celtic as much as possible, and help them to become as world class as possible. So without further ado, here it goes. So I'm very much behind schedule. That's another thing, because it's already nearly 1 a.m. here, but I really wanted to get this done and dusted. I hope it's not going to be another one of those days where I don't finish what I start, which may well be the case, but I'll do my best to get through as many ideas as I can, hopefully part 3 and 4 before I go to sleep, all being well. So it's one less thing to remember and do and whatnot. When I try and take too much on, it makes me forget things, and it overcomplicates things. But anyway, we like the camera angle as well. I did fear about whether I get enough lighting in as well, because it's quite dark. But anyway, here goes. So number 11, I'd love to see what Italian football and Celtic could do to improve, what sort of things they need to change. And I'd love to know what people think needs to be changed in Italian football and for, of course, Celtic respectively, to help them to improve, to become world class, or at least as close to world class as possible, and basically as good as possible, basically. So let's say for Italian football, I think it'd be great to see Italian football become more attack minded. And I'd love to see managers like Pep Guardiola, or funny enough, Ange possABLE, who managed at Celtic, coming in to bring their managerial experience and play more attacking football, which would improve the image of Italian football, make it more entertaining, play more versatile, attacking, entertaining, enterprising, as I call it, football. Basically entertaining, to put it simply, attacking and entertaining, and I think that would be pretty cool. The old AC Milan teams used to be, but the national team and most of the club teams are not that attack-minded, generally speaking, barring possibly Atalanta and Napoli. Other than those, I think most do prefer to play more defensive, and so I'd love to see more attacking football, and I'd love to see the best possible players, coaches, managers, scouts, and all those involved, as I said in part 1, who could make a great team. And a bit of a dilemma, as I love Italian football and Celtic, as to I love for Celtic to have that kind of thing as well. But I suppose for Celtic's level, the main thing is that they can win at the level they're at in Scottish football, in my opinion. And so I suppose they wouldn't quite need the same quality, but I'd love to see players, as well as coaches, managers, and scouts and whatnot, while they're at their prime, coming to Serie A, and then maybe a bit later, before they get too old though, going to Celtic. I fear that they would become too old and their ideas will become stale or whatever. Or the players will be too old to run around or things like that before they come to Italy and Celtic respectively. But as I say, I love seeing more become more attacking, enterprising, and that kind of thing. And hopefully that would attract fans, which will bring in more money and things like that as well. And it would be cool to win and play entertaining football as well. Most important for me is to win, but entertaining football comes a close second, I suppose, in a way, or at least comes somewhere along the line. But yeah, seeing that change in strategy, becoming more attacking and things like that, and again bringing in the best possible players, coaches, managers, scouting teams, coaching teams, youth development, and things like that. Through investment and sponsorship, hopefully that would help. I'd love to see Pep Guardiola manage in Serie A and then even the national team. That would be pretty cool in the future. Hopefully before he gets too old or before his ideas get stale or people. It seems to be the case that no manager can last forever, or coach or whatever. People find out ways to play against them, I suppose. But Pep Guardiola has managed in Spain, Germany, and England, and I suppose obviously I'm a bit biased, but I think it's about time he managed in Italy, and I'd love to see him at Celtic eventually before he gets too old. And managers like him. I think there was talk before about Jose Mourinho going to Celtic when they were looking for a manager, but I don't know if they can afford those kind of wages. But it'd be great again with that investment if loads of investors came in at Christmas and sponsors and brought in those great managers, coaches, players, scouts, and staff generally. And I'd love to hear again what sort of players, coaches, managers, and whatnot people would love to see in Serie A, and similar for Celtic. When it comes to Celtic, another thing I was thinking about changing is, in their point of view, I think is like penny pinching by Peter Lowell, who many people call Peter Paid Well or Peter Lie Well. Although he says he's a Celtic fan and from a Celtic family, a lot of people say he's quite tight, stingy, and that kind of thing with the money. He cares about his own money more than the club, and that penny pinching, being tight, although he might call it fiscally conservative, many people might call it, let's say, penny pinching, being tight or whatever, to put it simply. And so maybe that's something that could be changed. Like if Celtic miss out, if heaven forbid our main rivals, our arch enemies, or as I rather sarcastically call them, our nearest and dearest enemies or rivals or whatever, heaven forbid they win the league, they can get a lot of Champions League money, which I think they say at the top end for Celtic could be, if they get through the group, which is unlikely, if they ever did. I mean, obviously they won't be able to do it this season, but if they did, it would be worth up to a maximum, I think, for Celtic, pretty much of about 60 million, if I'm not mistaken. I heard more likely it would be a bit less than that, but it might be worth, even let's say if it was 30 million, it might be worth Celtic spending 29 million to ensure as much as possible that the club does get into Europe and wins that 30 million. So maybe spending money and investing, just like any other business, is worth it. So maybe spending that money and seeing what they could spend whilst at the same time doing it sensibly. I think I've covered that idea in a lot of detail, and I do fear that when these videos do go on a bit too long. So there's probably quite a few things. I'd love to know basically what Italian fans and Celtic fans think respectively, or even football fans could suggest that Italian football could do to improve. And of course Celtic, generally speaking, obviously our arch rivals probably wouldn't want to suggest ideas that could benefit, I would imagine, that could benefit us, obviously. Anyway, moving on, number 12, what does Italian football and Celtic do well, and what cultures should it keep and stick to, and maybe learning from previous Italian and Celtic teams, from Italy's case, both at club and country level. What could they learn from previous teams, and how could they keep that culture whilst also changing some of the things? So, for instance, Italian football, I often think of, like, could still keep that defensive style, but at the same time balance it with a bit more attacking and flair type of football, and give more younger players, dare I say, the midfielders and the strikers, more freedom I'm wary about giving some of the ideas away, but I'd love to go to Italy and Celtic respectively and coach and talk about my football philosophies and theories and things like that, which hopefully some of them are good, at least as many of them as possible. I hope they'll be, I'd love for them all to be as good as possible, but yes, I probably can be naive sometimes, but I'll say what does Italian football and Celtic do well, and what could they stick to and keep? Like for instance, Celtic does have money in the bank, which if it probably shouldn't go out and spend all its money, obviously, because then if something goes wrong, player doesn't work out or whatever, for instance, and even though the club spends a lot of money on it, then that could go wrong, and it's unlikely if you spend a lot of money on a player. But if you get the scouting right, but if for whatever reason something goes wrong, then something unforeseen, then you might need those finances, as Peter Lowell says. And I forgot to give a balance. So some people probably think Peter Lowell is doing a great job, and he's not just Peter paid well or Peter lied well, but he's actually someone who is a benefit to Celtic. So I'd love to hear both sides of the argument. Number 13, what are some of the issues and challenges facing Italian football and Celtic? So with Italy, I think, for instance, Italian football, the culture struggles to change. The finances might not be as high as the EPL, the English Premier League, and I fear that it will take a while to change some of the cultures and to improve and to win trophies and things like that. And I suppose I'd love to do it as quick as possible because I'm not the most patient, and I always have these paranoias of the world ending soon. So I think I'd love to see Italian teams become the most successful on record before the end of the world or stuff like that. Of a first world problem, but yeah, finances and things like that. I worry whether Italian football is really far behind. Well, I think it is, and isn't playing so well at club or country level. So it needs to. I suppose 3 teams did get to the final last season, and it's not as that bad. But compared to our usual high standard, it's not that great. I didn't think Italy played very well against England, for instance. But yeah, so I fear it's going to take a lot longer than I hope. I'd love for it to happen this year or by the end of this year. I know the year's already almost over. I would have loved to have developed my ideas much earlier as well. But also, yeah, I fear it might take 5 or 10 years or longer, even if the world's still around at that time, for Italian football teams to improve. And again, finances could be an issue, and how well it's marketed compared to the EPL, whether investors, sponsors, and whatnot will actually want to invest in Italian football. And similar with Celtic, in Celtic's case, it's I think the league Celtic are in, the finances are very hard to attract compared to the EPL, for instance, as I say, or even other leagues like the Bundesliga, Serie A itself, La Liga, or any other top leagues. That's why it's so far behind. And then some people might say it's not run as well. The scouting team is not necessarily as good as it could be. There's too much nepotism. Like Peter Lowell's, however we pronounce his surname, son is appointed, I can't remember what, the CEO or something of the club, and please forgive me, I can't remember the exact title. I think Peter Lowell is the non-executive director, but people might say it's a strange coincidence that his son is involved, and that seems a bit too much like nepotism, which there probably is no room for. Another problem that Italian football might also face as well, Celtic. But yeah, I'd love to know what people think are some of the weaknesses of Italian football and Celtic. Number 14, what are solutions to such problems to help it to become as close as to world class as possible? Number 15, I talked before in part 1, point number 5, about how I dream for, how I'd love to listen to and read my fellow Italian football fans and Celtic fans' dreams or shopping list, Christmas shopping list, let's say, for Italian football and Stroke or Celtic respectively. But talking about my own, I'd love to see Italian football and Celtic attract as much investment as possible legally, as I often say, legally, including investment and sponsors, investors, sponsors, obviously, as I say, co-owners, shareholders, equity holders, and whatnot. Any sort of legal investment they can get, which can be reinvested to, most importantly, in my opinion, win trophies. My 3 biggest goals in football would be the the Italian national team to be the most successful and Italy to be the most successful footballing nation, and my ideas hopefully help to contribute to that. Italian club teams to be the most successful in Europe, to overtake the EPL and La Liga in terms of trophies won overall. And the third would be Celtic to be the most successful team in Scotland and to be acknowledged as such. Number 16, I would love for there to be committees, think tanks, cooperatives and networks or whatever to discuss those sorts of things, basically to do whatever's best for Italian football and Celtic respectively. Again, maybe Italian football and Celtic could work together on that as well, and have committees and think tanks together. So all those involved in Italian football and Celtic, hopefully to come together and share ideas, sometimes just Italian football and sometimes just Celtic and sometimes both together, so cover all the possibilities. But yeah, discussing what's best for Italian football and Celtic respectively, and sometimes even as they together. Number 17, I'd say I'd love to see Italian teams, both at club and country level, be as successful as possible, hopefully to become Italy to be recognised as the most successful footballing nation at club and country level. It would be hard to see, but using my imaginations and stuff like that. And with Celtic, I would love to see Celtic win as many trophies as possible, especially domestically, but even maybe in the future, even like a Conference League, Europa League, or even a Super Cup, or even a UEFA Super Cup, or even a Champions League, and hopefully even a World Club Cup, maybe like to win all 5 of those major European and international trophies in the next 5 to 10 years, hopefully, maybe. I think that would be pretty interesting, although that's a bit of a dilemma, as I love to see Italian teams do well. So it's one of a few dilemmas I have about supporting both Italian teams and Celtic, like if they play each other. I suppose Italian teams would just shade it in terms of my support. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Celtic could win those sorts of things in the future with the right level of investment and sponsorship, and possibly a director of football and good football scouts, better recruitment, basically, and things like that. If I'm really dreaming, I'd love to see Italian teams and Celtic have like trillions of pounds, but I know that I'm a dreamer, so I know that's quite out there even by my usual standards. Number 18, I'd love to see what Italian football and Celtic could do to make the world a better place whilst winning trophies at the same time. Number 19, that includes supporting women from developing nations, including in areas like business, politics, STEM, training, education, and things like that, basically. So in all areas of science, tech, engineering, maths, i.e. STEM. And number 20, also having a mix of older and younger players. I think that would help. But as ever, I'd love to read people's comments and hear people's ideas and suggestions as to what you think could make, in this case, Italian football and Celtic as close to world class as possible. And sorry if this video did drag on quite a lot. I do waffle, but I do have a lot of ideas in that mad mind of mine. Anywho, I'm out. Peace and love.